Hello again, it's me, Frieza700, and here we are to talk about the Imperial Guard. And brief introduction, more or less, to discuss what do they symbolize and what are they overall. In the most generic terms, of course. The Imperial Guard is more or less my favorite thing about the 40K universe is because they really symbolize how dark and gritty it is. How absolutely ass it is to be in the Imperial. But also, they symbolize this pride, this stoic nature of the Imperium. The way that humanity is really on the brink of apocalyptic destruction at all times. And really, even though the mortality rate is damn near 90%, it's still rather honorful to be an Imperial Guard. And it's still badass to watch these guys die. Don't get me wrong, they get absolutely butchered in the numbers, so you don't care about each individual guard, but you will say that their defense against all threats of the Emperor is definitely something to be said. Like, these men charge full of fear into these enemies, these Xenos, these demons, these horrors, and they see half of 50,000 dudes get wiped out in one hit, and they still plant their feet, point their lasgun, and spray that motherfucker in the face. That's what the Imperial Guard do, because they're just normal people. That's something that I really give them commendations for. Like, whew, they definitely deserve some accolades for that. Now, what does the Imperial Guard represent, more or less, to humanity? To humanity, they are known as the Hammer of the Emperor. Now, why would they be known as that? Well, because if you ever get into a pirate situation and you're just a freebooter and you're just, roaming around being a dickhead, pillaging farm worlds, attacking a few outposts, attacking some merchants, being a real cunt, all of a sudden, the Emperor's gonna say no. And when he says no, he doesn't send an emissary, he doesn't send a diplomat, he doesn't send an escort ship to tell you, please stop, this is your last warning. No. Instead, what he does is he deploys the Imperial Guard, who come in full military and stomp your ass down to the ground no matter how many you take down with you. That is how they will do it. They will artillery you. They will make sure your base is nothing but rubble. They will hit you with so many troops that no matter how masterful you are with a sword or with a gun, you will be drowning in the blood that you are spilling. And if you're a demon who's just so godly, trust me, a god is nothing to a man. And in this case, a god is nothing to men. Because there is going to be a lot of men charging at this demon. We're not talking like, a battle corps of 50 dudes. No, we're talking 100,000. And that's just one little battalion. We're not even talking about the full company. The full regiment is well in the millions. You will be struck down immediately. Now, of course, the strategies that the Imperial Guard deploy aren't as, more or less, they aren't as refined as the other counterpart of the Emperor's arsenal, which is known as the Scalpel of the Emperor. The Emperor's Scalpel, which would be the Space Marines. So the Imperial Guard don't fight like the Space Marines. They don't have that surgical precision. They don't have that super good reconnaissance capabilities. They don't have that super great defense capabilities. They don't have those super really expertise deployment of weapons. They don't do that. They instead employ much grander strategies. So a Tau Aircast may be really good at flying. He could do some pincer maneuvers in just his own little aircraft. Good for you, dude. That's really cool. You can just turn off your thrusters, whip your Gannons back, and then just blast my ass, and then whip the fucking shit back into the 180 position and turn on your thrusters and keep going. That's cool for you, you Xeno fuck. But guess what the Imperial Guard has? They have a lot of planes. They have a lot of troopers. They have a lot of ammunition. They don't need to be really finesse in one department of war. Instead, they just employ enough of it that it will overcome you no matter how skilled you are. And this is where, yes, you may be a Tau aircast who's really good at flying, but no matter how fucking good you are at flying, you will not be able to dodge good 60 gunships blazing the sky full of lead. You will not dodge all those. There is no fucking way. And then, yes, you may be an Eldar, fucking amazing as hell, fast as hell, able to slice up easily 60 dudes in one succession. But, well, no matter how good you are, those las guns, they know how to spray. And they will spray you down. Yeah, you're dodging all this stuff, ducking, weaving, blinking like a madman. But when you got a whole 100 dudes who are well versed on how to level their rifles and point it in the general vicinity of you, and they're all spraying fully automatic fire, yeah, you're gonna become a Christmas decoration really fucking shortly. And then when it comes to you, who's just this corn berserker, and you could take on anything and just whip it down, and no matter what, you're so resilient you cannot die. You will set up a fortress and just never be conquered. Well, guess what, you prideful son of a bitch? The Imperium has the Basilisk, which is an artillery gun. They have other deadlier guns too. We're not even talking about the Titans. We're just talking about regular military artillery pieces just lying around, and they will shell your ass to oblivion. And then the Imperial Guard will just goose stomp around the rubble that used to be your impenetrable forces as they push forward. Now you may think, well, the Imperial Guard sound pretty fucking good, right? So why are they in need of the Astartes? Well, that's where we get to the gritty truth, which is, yes, the Imperial Guard deploy themselves in an effective manner. But even then, in an effective manner, and in the fact that they have billions of worlds that can give easily billions of Imperial Guard, well, that's not enough sometimes. Sometimes you may actually lose worlds that are very vital unless you have something that's faster, something that's more surgical, something that's able to eliminate the threat quickly, and then the Imperial Guard or Planet Defense Forces could mop up the rest. Because again, the Imperial Guard do slow campaigns. They don't do quick succession campaigns like the Astartes do. The Astartes, if they conquer something, they do it in a few months. Imperial Guard want to conquer something, it could take them 5 years. Fuck, we could look at the Death Corps of Krieg. They nuked their opponents. They nuked the whole fucking world. It still took them 500 years to conquer that shit. That's a long and grueling campaign, and that's time that the Imperium doesn't want to spend on simple, really, incursions like the Tau. Did you think the Imperium would really want to spend over 10 years fighting just one Tau planet? Hell no. They'd rather send the Imperial Guard to claim and defend points and send the Astartes out to wipe out strongholds so the Imperial Guard could just swoop in and leave the skirmishing fronts for the Imperial Guard so that way the Astartes can focus on the bigger threats. That's a better way of handling the Imperial Guard. Now you may think, well, an Imperial Guard regiment, how is it more or less organized? Like, do they all have artillery? Do they all have armor? Do they all have shock troopers? No. In fact, every regiment is specific to one field of war. And the reason why is, again, to the Horus Heresy Codex Astartes type thing, where no Imperial Guard regiment should be this powerful. No Imperial Guard regiment should be this well-rounded that if they ever turn traitor, it would take a lot to get rid of them. So this is why the Imperial Guard regiments are typically one aspect of war. So most of the time the Imperial Guard regiments are just normal infantry. So that means you're basically cannon fodder, essentially. But another Imperial Guard regiment may be only artillery, and that's it. Only artillery guns, nothing else. Now, you may think, well, that's stupid because now you gotta deploy more regiments to really well round your forces. But really, that's not. That's actually a really great idea. Because then what happens is if an Imperial Guard regiment all becomes traitor, that's a lot of stuff you could lose. But if they're all artillery pieces, then you know that all it would take is one guard regiment to wipe it all out. Because then all you got to deploy is your armor, and then boom, they could just steamroll it. Or boom, deploy your air, and then boom, they would just steamroll. It's easier to handle with. Like, oh boy, all these traitors are only light infantry. Huh. It's almost like as if we have Bane Blades, which are tanks that could shoot out little mini nukes. Huh. I wonder what would happen if we deployed those against the fucking heretics. And that's exactly how they would deal with these type of threats. Now, on the flip side, Imperial Guard regiments are slow to get to the battlefield. So this is more or less not the Imperial Guard, but more or less at fault of just the Imperium and their methods of travel, which is the warp. So if a planet gets attacked, the Imperium might not know that the planet got attacked till 7 years after the fact. And then, if the world's actually important, and the world hasn't been conquered yet, because somehow the planetary defense forces pulled it out of their ass to survive, then it would take a few years to even assemble a bunch of regiments together, and then send them at that destination. And then when they're being sent, that could take years. That could take a long time, or it could take very little time, depending how the warp feels at that time and point. But you get my point, is that the Imperial Guard regiment has to kind of be at the battle before the battle starts, kind of ordeal. If they're not there when the battle starts, they ain't coming. You're better off hoping for the Space Marines than you would be for the Imperial Guard. But the Imperial Guard are better for you if you're a civilian, because the Imperial Guard can do more for the civilian populace than an Astartes could. Unless they're a Salamanders chapter. Fucking pussies. But besides that, though, the Imperial Guard regiment do have specialists. And that's something that I think should be addressed more, because there's enough Imperial Guard regiments that are well known and have their own lore as to why they're specialized. But I feel like we need more of them. Like, we really need more, especially if they consist of millions and billions of planets. They should have more specialist regiments. Like the Death Corps of Krieg are a specialist regiment of heavy infantry and artillery. They excel at that. And they excel at fighting in radioactive waste and toxins and poisonous worlds. They excel at that. And then you got the Catechins, who are great saboteurs, great reconnaissance, great assassination. That's great. Now, of course, every planet has its own minor customs and uniform changes, so every Imperial Guard uniform you look at, every Imperial Guard equipment is slightly different, but it's not different enough for you to go, oh, these are the Slangmabob Imperial Guard, and this is the Kahutapam Imperial Guard. No, you won't know by looking at them. As far as you're concerned, you're just gonna go, looks like shit, smells like shit, it's probably shit, it's Imperial Guard. And you're gonna look at something else and you're gonna make the exact same, really more or less, idea, is that it's just all shit. They're all gonna have las guns, they're all gonna have crack grenades, they're all gonna have flak armor. But some regiments don't do that, and those regiments are specialized. Those are very specific regiments. Like, some don't even use crack grenades, they use frag. And frag grenades is something that no other Imperial Guard regiment, that's a standard Guard regiment, would use. And that's something that I think is really interesting with the lore about the Imperial Guard, is that, yes, you guys are hearing it from me, and if this is your first time hearing about the Imperial Guard, you would think, wow, they're awesome, you know? They just flood the battlefield with artillery, they flood the battlefield with tanks, they flood the battlefield with soldiers, and they fight enemies that are way superior to them, and they drown them in their own blood. They'll stack the bodies high. That's great. But As far as customization in individual guard regiments, they are very few and far in between. Some regiments wear really customizable war gear, like the Mordians, like the Valhallans, like the Death Corps of Krieg, like the Steel Legion. But other Imperial Guard regiments look more or less like every other Imperial Guard regiment, but they are specialists, like the Cadians. Now, the Cadians are a different case because the Cadians are, quote, the best Imperial Guard, and because they're awarded that title, every standard Imperial Guard regiment tries to look like them, but they aren't like them, if that makes sense. Mostly due to training, battle customs, and the fact that Cadians are specialists and regular Imperial Guards aren't. But more or less, that has been my quick introduction for you on what they are, more or less. I will go into a later video about war gear that is typically associated with generic Imperial Guards. And then we'll go more and more about specific Imperial Guard regiments, what makes them unique, and so on and so forth. This has been Freezer 700. I've had a really hard time with this second new job because of just my sleep schedule, and the fact that I'm working more means I'm having a hard time churning out videos. But besides that, for those of you who are loyal subscribers, thank you for giving me the patience and time that you so have, and just see you guys next time. I know I will be live streaming in a few days from now, so do not expect it anytime soon. Probably in 2 or 3 days. So just keep that in mind. Besides that, this has been Freezer 700. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time.